All right, good afternoon, everyone. It is Hump Day Wednesday, April 22nd, 2026. Hope everybody's having a fantastic day. And this will be a pretty short video. I got to get out of here in like within 20 minutes or so. So we'll just jump right in. Make sure you smash the like button, subscribe to the channel. Any questions, comments, leave them down below. So we'll just take a quick look where we're at. We'll start with futures since that's where I am. This is the Japanese yen currency futures. Again, it's not Forex, it's the actual yen futures. And you can see I got a couple alerts set on TradingView and prices moving lower. I was getting alerted all morning on this down candle right here because this alert line right here is a crossing down, as you can see there in the middle of the screen. And, quite frankly, I probably should have taken this trade, but I didn't. And the reason why is just simply looking left here. I mean, we go all the way out to the monthly chart. You can see this area has been defended here, really going all the way back to what is this here? Uh, Beginning or middle of 2024. So almost 2 years. We've had multiple attempts at these lows right here, and prices bounce. And so, looking at the currency index up top here, which is again the strength index, and for these, it's plotted against the DXY. So in this case, the yen is the gold or the red line, and the DXY is the blue line. And you can see there's a conflict here on the 4-hour chart. Um, and there's no real direction here on the daily. So I just chose not to take it. I mean, if I did, I probably would be looking to exit at these lows right here. There is another layer of support down here. And again, if you look at the monthly chart, at least as far back as Trading View shows here, um, these are all time lows for the yen. So that's why I just didn't feel like shorting it. So I just, even though I had the alert set, I passed on the trade. So say la vie, we'll see what happens with it, and if I end up regretting that trade, not taking it. But you can just see how like range bound this thing is, and I mean, there's got to be a break one way or another eventually, up or down. And and just because it's been at these monthly support levels certainly doesn't mean it can't go lower. I mean, I think the Bank of Japan would prefer to have a weaker yen anyways, and so maybe they will push it lower. But these are all-time lows it's sitting at right now. So anyways, the only other trade, and I never got triggered on this, and this is probably a bearish market forming here, but soybeans. Um, I did have a buy stop, which I'm going to delete now. I was looking this morning when the market opened. This is the 1-hour chart to see if this thing would pull down towards this support level or somewhere in here, about where I have where this gold line, which would end up being a stop loss. But it never triggered. In fact, it broke this first layer of support, and now it's sitting at this second one. So um, I'm just going to leave this. Probably what will happen is the market will just close today, and this order will be invalidated. But you can see I had a buy stop sitting here for 2 contracts. I was hoping we'd get a bounce and a new high here, but doesn't look like it wants to do that, at least not today. Um, and if we go any lower, then my bias actually on this will probably turn more bearish. If we look at the daily chart, that certainly looks pretty bearish. We had this big bearish engulfing candle back here about a month ago, and then we chopped around. I talked about this range for quite a while. We did break out of it last week, or yeah, in the last week and a half, we did break higher. But this still looks pretty bearish on the higher time frame. On the lower time frame, like the hourly chart, still could break and go higher. But again, just keep the higher time frame in mind. That doesn't look pretty. That doesn't look awfully bullish to me. If we look at the COT report, you can also see we're starting to get some movement out of the over the net long position here on both the short and the long term COT chart, which is the blue and the red line, which is just two different look back periods. And this is just looking at the large speculators, so like the not the producers, but like the hedge funds and the basically the funds, the big money, but outside of the commercial traders. So these are the large specs. And you can see they are now moving, have now moved out of this net long area. And whenever that happens, the market does go down at least temporarily for a few weeks or so. And so because of that, this was a going to be a short term play for today. But I think overall, actually, I'm just going to delete this trade altogether now. Um, and so and that's it. And so I didn't take any other trades in futures today. So um, just for the sake of time, I'm not going to sit here and go through all these. There's not really too much happening, but we do have some trending down on these shorter time frames on the currency futures. Um, and then as far as the grain markets go, we still have a lot of chop in wheat. Corn, we'll see what happens with corn. We are again also starting to move out of a net long position here. But whether that's going to mean a sustained down move, we'll have to see. It looks a little bit better in soybeans than it does in corn. Soybean meal is still net long. So, but we do have this pretty substantial 4-hour move down right here. And soybean oil actually is bucking the trend. That's still up. And you can see the net longs are holding on pretty strong on the weekly chart. And so we'll see what happens here. We're back into a support level. And then cattle is continuing to move to the downside. It would be great to see cattle actually sell off a lot just because beef prices have been so high for the last several years. But especially since yeah, if we go out to a higher time frame, I mean, we've been basically in an uptrend since um, at least since last year. If we go out to a weekly chart, I think you'd see it even more. Yeah, if we go out to a monthly chart, cattle has been in an uptrend since 2020. So for 6 years, we just been blasting to the upside. So, and that's why if you go to the store, why beef, steak, and hamburger and all that stuff is so expensive. So hopefully we might get a little turn and have this thing start coming back down a little bit. But the large specs are still net long here, and so we'll see. All right, so I'm just going to leave it there on futures. Nothing too much to talk about today. Um, Over to currencies, to forex. We'll just collapse this down. We don't need to see the COT index. We don't need to see stochastic RSI. So I did take a long on CAD Swiss. Now, I've been talking about, this is the main focus for today. I've talked about using the currency strength index on the daily chart. That's 95% of where I look. I made a video a few weeks back about even using it on the weekly chart for those of you that want to position trade and only want to look at the chart, once a week. If you really just don't have the time, and you certainly can do that. But I also want to prove that you can use this on shorter time frames. I wouldn't go too low because you're just going to get a lot of false signals. But this is the 4-hour chart, and I think this one is a reasonable short time frame to use. I personally wouldn't go any shorter, but I think the 4-hour chart is reasonable. It's not a heck of a lot different than the daily chart. I mean, I guess it is. I mean, it's 6 times shorter than the daily chart, but from a standpoint of price action, it's just a slightly more zoomed in version. So, anyways, if you look up at the CSI, we had this bullish signal on the CAD Swiss. Now, the CAD Swiss, if you look at the daily, has been kind of choppy. It looks like maybe it was trying to form a bottom down here. I mean, we hit this low back in October of last year, and it really hasn't gone anywhere. We hit a high in early December, and then basically it's just been chopping inside of this low to this high range, and even tighter actually on the upside. These highs that have been made right around the 58 zone. Maybe just throw out this high, but so we basically been chopping inside of this range. And on the 4-hour chart, we got this bullish signal. You can see both the 10 period and the 35 period CSI lined up. I did take now I had this alert, which I'm going to delete now because I'm already in the trade. So I took that this morning, and we'll see what happens. I don't know how far it's going to go. I mean, we still are well inside the range, but even if we just get back up to these highs right here, I think that would be a pretty good trade. Um, so anyways, that's the only new trade I took. So I did get stopped um, out of my pound dollar, I think it was long yesterday, and manually closed my dollar Swiss short today. And I think, with the CAD Swiss is also because we're seeing some weakness in the Swiss franc. And I think that's the other reason. I mean, the CAD is strengthening, but it's also because, again, we're seeing some weakness in the Swiss on the shorter time frame. So kind of intraday, we're still seeing some weakness. So I did take a couple of losses yesterday, but I'm still holding on to several trades on my funded accounts. Um, this is it here, and I'm up about $500 open profit, but I did close a couple of big losers. So between yesterday and today, I'm probably sitting at about break even. But you can see I'm in the Aussie Kiwi. Oh, this is the other one I took today was Aussie Kiwi short. I think that was also based on the 4-hour chart. Um, well, let's see here. Yeah, I think it was based on the 4-hour, but of course we had an update at noon. And so we had a 12 o'clock candle closed at noon. And so that did change the 35 period. Doesn't look as good as it did this morning. Um, but the the 10 period, it's not great either. So I may end up not holding this trade. This is probably not the best trade to have taken, to be honest, looking at it now. But it's only down $40. There's the Kiwi Swiss I talked about. I took earlier. I'm still in GBP CAD, and I'm hoping with the CAD strengthening, and we just talked about CAD Swiss, that this will continue to push lower, and at least maybe get back towards some swing lows down in here. So I'm going to hold that. It's just been creeping down. I'm still in pound Kiwi short, which is still going down. I'm still in Euro Aussie short, which is still going down. Um, you can see that pound CAD, pound Kiwi, Euro Aussie. And I think that's it. Yeah, those are my trades. Like I said, I closed GBP USD, and that hit stop loss yesterday. And then dollar Swiss I closed about an hour ago before I opened this video. So we'll see what happens with Aussie Kiwi. I may end up just dumping this one. It's only a $40 loss right now. I'm certainly not going to let it ride to stop loss if it's not moving in the right direction. But I just did want to point out again that you can use the 4-hour chart as well. And again, so if you're looking to trade more often, the way I like to do it on the 4-hour, and this is really on the daily, I like to see both the short and the long one, the short and the longer look back periods. So in this case, 35 and the 10 to line up. They might not line up exactly because obviously the 35 is 3.5 times longer look back. But here's an example right here. You can see back on or around April 14th. So, which was, 8 days ago, we had this 4-hour signal, and both look back periods of the indicator showed us a short position here, right about like on this candle or on this one. And that would have ended up being a really nice trade. As you can see, price just dumped after that. So you can either, and then we had like this one here. Now, this is one where the shorter time frame actually just came together right here. So this was like a pullback area where we were in an uptrend. Price, the two lines pull back, touch each other. I'm looking at the red and blue one right where my pointer is. And if you look up ahead, a few candles later, we had a bullish crossover on the 35 period. Obviously, it's a little bit slower, and that one confirmed that trade. So at this point, maybe, although this was an entry technically, and you could have definitely taken it off this signal, this compression and breakaway here at the 4-hour, because the market was already trending up. We had this little pullback, and here was your entry candle. This would have been a beautiful entry. But even if you wanted to hold off, then your next candle would have been either this one or this one, which, is a little bit later, but still the market went up for several days after that. And so it still would have been a good trade. So on the 4 hour chart, because I don't want to take a lot of I don't want to take every signal I'm going to get. I do like to see the two look back periods either align completely or within a few candles of each other. Again, the 35 period might drag a little bit because it's a longer look back, but I want to see them generally showing me the same thing. And if that happens, I'd be willing to take that trade on the 4 hour. As of this morning, the when I looked at least earlier, the CAD Swiss was the only one that the CAD Swiss and the Kiwi Swiss were the two that I decided were worth taking. And that came off of obviously some Swiss weakness, but also some renewed strength in the New Zealand and the Canadian dollar. So that's why I took those two. But I didn't really see any other ones. And those other trades I showed you have been running, and those were all taken off daily signals. So, all right, so that's where we're at with Forex. But I did want to, just say, hey, I am going to, continue to look at both 4 hour and daily entries, time frame entries for this indicator. But I'm going to be a little bit more selective on the 4 hour entries because of the potential of false signals. On the daily chart, those signals are probably a little bit more solid. You got to give those more breathing room in case you get in, and then the market starts to pull back a little bit. You got to give them some breathing room on your stop loss. But on the 4 hour chart, you're going to get more signals. And so again, I rather trade in the direction of the trend. I'm going to still look at the trend on the 4 hour, look at the daily trend. I don't trade the signals in a vacuum. But if it makes sense, if the market structure looks accurate, and the market structure looks good, and the trend seems to be in that direction, and both of these look back periods on the CSI line up, then that's a trade that I'll take. And again, that was euros, excuse me, CAD Swiss and Kiwi Swiss fit that bill, and those are the two that I took. So you can still see it's still a good filter because I mean a 4 hour chart is a lot shorter than a daily. And I've got 20 something pairs up here, and out of all that, I found two signals. And so that's pretty good, but that it's not a lot, but that's actually pretty good for one day off of a 4 hour chart. And those are trades that I'll probably hold for to either a new high, new low, or to some other market structure level, like we talked about with the CAD Swiss, maybe getting back up towards these highs here. The market obviously is gonna look for resistance up in this area because it's been acting as resistance for quite a while. So I anticipate price will get up here, and then the least will pull back, and so this will probably be my target area somewhere up in here. So it's not going to be a really long length trade. Theoretically, I could be out of that by this time tomorrow, depending how it goes. So we'll see. So, anyways, so that's just a quick look at the 4 hour on the CSI. I'm not going to go through every pair. Like I said, I got to run here in a second. So, yeah, so I'll leave it there. Questions, comments, leave them down below. Again, if you have any questions on the CSI indicator, let me know. I said I don't sell it, but I'm happy to provide you information or whatever. I know I say that every day because I'm talking about an indicator that you cannot just readily get on TradingView. Um, and I know I talk about it on the channel every day. It is my go-to indicator in Forex, and I will use it in currency futures as well against the DXY. That's how it's coded in there. And so that's how that works. All right, guys. So I'll leave it there. Smash the like button, subscribe to the channel. Questions, comments, leave them down below. And I will talk to everybody later on. Okay, take care.